Redbox Media programming is brought to you by Jack Kane Ford. Find your next Ford Tough vehicle at caneford.com. Woodhill Community Center. Have a hand in the heart of the city. Support their mission with your donations at woodhillcommunitycenter.org. Toyota on Nicholasville Superstore. Online consultants are standing by right now to help you find your next Toyota. Visit toyotaonnicholasville.com. Lexus of Lexington, home of the best-selling Lexus IS. Find yours today at lexusoflexington.com.
Well, hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Lisa, Hendey, and Friends. I'm just totally psyched to be with you today. I can say that because I have a California guest on the show today, and I'm so happy for those of you that have contacted me over the last couple weeks to let me know that you're enjoying the show. Thank you for that, and for your feedback, and just for being here with us to kind of get to know another one of my friends. And again, today I'm so excited because our guest today, Christin Jezak, is actually, I think I can call her a real world friend now because we've been together in person multiple times, and I'm truly a fan of the work that she's doing. So I just wanted to have her on today, especially to share a special project that you're going to learn about during the course of our conversation. Christin Jezak has been performing this amazing show, Person to Person, a Mother Teresa project for the past 11 years across the United States and even at World Youth Day in Australia. Christin is a promised Pauline cooperator, which means that she's a lay associate of the Daughters of St. Paul, and she lives out their mission right here in the entertainment industry in Southern California. She's appeared in a Grubhub Super Bowl commercial, in a Jimmy Kimmel sketch, and she's been even a role on the show Raising Hope. And this year, she's going to be releasing her next play, Unexpected Crowns, which in a very important fashion celebrates the value of women. But today, Christin joins us to kind of catch us up on Person to Person, a Mother Teresa project, and also just to kind of let us know about the cray-cray of living out your faith in Los Angeles. So, Christin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. It's great to be with you.
It's awesome to have you on. And Christin and I met, I think we met in person probably within the last year. Everybody who's listening knows that I'm a newbie to California, and you haven't been here too much longer than me, have you? When did you move out?
Oh, no. I moved out in 2011.
Oh, so you're a professional. Wow.
Yeah, but I'm still an East Coast girl, at heart.
I think what you are is a chameleon, Christin, because while I've seen you in person, I've also become a little follower of your social media and your YouTube and the different personas that you play. And so I think what one of the things I've learned about you is that you have this amazing, very fun ability to transform yourself and to become different people. So I'm kind of curious, before we dive into the show, how did you ever get involved? You have your master's in theater from Villanova. So how did you dive into especially the work that you do in the creative fields that you're in?
So I really have a passion for it. I have a passion for characters. You know, I grew up watching Lucille Ball on I Love Lucy, and there's just something about the joy of just bringing those characters to life and making others laugh. And I just really love that. And my father, when I was about 3 years old, actually almost died of a heart attack. And he ended up having to do some kind of rehab to strengthen his heart. So he ended up getting involved in glee clubs and musical theater because he loved to sing, the community theater. And he also had my grandmother that got involved, so my mother's mother, and then myself when I was about 7 years old. So I've been doing theater for a very, very long time, and my mother was a youth minister, and I was born in the church, and both those passions and loves have been a part of my heart. Yeah.
Were you from Pennsylvania or the East Coast?
So I'm originally from Massachusetts, and the Fall River Diocese, and I went to Villanova, which is in Philly, for my master's, and I lived in Philly for about 2 years, and then when I was touring with Mother Teresa Project, I'd be there about once a month, visiting and performing.
Yeah, so let's dive into that, the Mother Teresa Project. So how did that get started? And tell everybody, maybe just from a very introductory perspective, what is Mother Teresa Project?
So Mother Teresa Project is all about Mother Teresa's ability to see Jesus in every single person. I really felt a very strong, passionate connection. I think it's so important. I think in our society, it's so easy to gloss over and not see the real value of people. You know, and we've all experienced that on certain personal levels. So her message of human dignity was very important to me. And I also have a real passion for producing theater that is a part of my faith, but it doesn't just stay in the church. You know, it can kind of cross boundaries. And I really felt like Mother Teresa was the greatest candidate for that, because she was really a world figure. I mean, she brought Jesus to the world, but she did it in such a way that was so, I mean, she was Mother Teresa. She could go anywhere that she liked, and she could talk to anybody that she liked. And, you know, she had such a love and a real passion for people. So I felt that was really important. So, as I said, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this is actually my graduate thesis project at Villanova. I had the opportunity to create a one-woman show, and I actually spent time with Mother Teresa's sisters in Philly as a way of actually doing research for the performance.
That's so fascinating. So when was it originally written?
Actually, 2007. So this May, this month on the 22nd is actually going to be its 11th birthday.
Wow, that's amazing. The thing that's so interesting about it, though, Christin, is that during that time, I mean, so certainly the world has known for years about Mother Teresa, but since you've been performing this, we've had so many events, obviously significant to her life. Not only, well, definitely her passing, which was a worldwide, period of mourning, and then her beatification and her recent canonization. So you were kind of onto something, right? Before it was really a thing. You knew of her sanctity.
Yes, and it was really interesting too, because when I was putting the show together, I don't know if you remember the book Come Be My Light that was released by her spiritual director, The Private Writings, and it actually wasn't released until the fall of 2007. So when I was putting this piece together, I had a lot of biographies, people who would interview her and write about her. And then also she never personally wrote a book. She would give all of these talks and speeches, and she would write letters, but she never actually wrote a book other than the rules for her order. So in terms of the content that I have that I was going through, it was just amazing because I really prayed. I really spent a lot of time in prayer. And it's so funny because sometimes you hear about icon painters and how they will actually pray to the saints, that they're painting. And I prayed to Mother Teresa as I was putting this together. And it was so interesting having that source material of Come Be My Light releasing in the fall after it was created, and just seeing just choices that I had made that I didn't understand when I was making them, but just made sense after reading that material later.
Yeah, I think she's so compelling, and you guys who are listening don't have the benefit of seeing Christin, like what Christin looks like yet. Although you could probably look at our links in our blog post, and you'll see her bio and her pictures and everything. But Christin is, I'll say, you're diminutive like Mother Teresa. So what is it like to kind of like physically make that transformation as you're preparing to present the play?
So, it's so interesting that you asked me this, and I don't get to answer that a whole lot, but as an actor, sometimes when you prepare a character, you always talk about an action verb, like something that you either want or you want to give, before you go out and you play this character. So honestly, when I'm preparing, because she's the first character of my play, I come out as Mother Teresa, but when I'm preparing before I go on, I really tap into that desire to love. Just tapping into that idea of wanting to spread love and be loved. And just filling myself with that.
I think that's the perfect word for her. So how does the play, let me just say up front, the reason that Christin and I are talking about this is that I'm super excited because I'm actually going to be getting to see Mother Teresa Project when Christin performs this at the Christ Cathedral of all places. Like, what a huge thing to be performing this for a 2-night presentation. That's going to be May 31st and June 1st. And I guess maybe I should ask you, first of all, how that opportunity came up, like to actually do the play in the Diocese of Orange.
Well, it's really interesting because, we're talking a long span here, 11 years. And to be quite honest, when I first came out to LA is... I'm trying to think of the right word for this. It's crazy. It's really crazy. And honestly, as an actor or as someone in the industry, it's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming to know where to put your feet first. And for the most part, when I got out of Villanova, I was really taking care of my own bookings and I was really managing my own company. So to have that time and to get settled in LA was very, very difficult. So I kind of petered off from really, I would perform it kind of by request during those years. And, it got to the point where I'd be performing like maybe 4 a year and then maybe 3 a year and then 2 a year. And then, the last couple of years previous, maybe once a year. And then all of a sudden last year, the Daughters of St. Paul in Culver City were hosting different events. Obviously, I'm very close to them. And I had said, hey, since you're trying to build your calendar, I would love to perform for you guys. It'd be great to do the show again. And I did 2 performances for them. And there was just something different that happened. Meaning I just felt this tugging on my heart that it was time to come back. And do it again. And to be quite honest, the show went as far as World Youth Day in Australia, which is pretty far, but there were a lot of states in between Massachusetts and Pennsylvania. And I think the furthest west they had gone was really Ohio. I'd driven to Ohio. I remember performing in Ohio. So there was a lot of land that had not seen this show. And I really felt that tugging to go and perform again. And then not too long after that, I had somebody contact me from the Archdiocese of Denver for an event with the Archbishop there, Archbishop Aquila, to perform for that. And that was in November of last year. And then I had a friend who didn't even know that I was going through this sort of tugging of the Holy Spirit to come back and be doing this again. And she had said, Christin, I'm starting to represent, some of my Christian friends who are musicians. And I know you have that Mother Teresa show. And I really feel that if God gives you something, that you should be using it. Would you mind if I started promoting you? And it was just this year, the beginning of this year. Her name is Betsy Freeman. She's my booking agent, and she started booking me for this year. And that's how that show came about. She put in the phone call, and that's how it happened.
That's amazing. And if people don't know, Christ Cathedral is a really special place. You've been down there, right, Christin, to visit?
Yeah.
So this is actually the former Crystal Cathedral. And I grew up kind of in the shadow of that down in Orange County. And I remember that place. Well, I remember, first of all, Reverend Schuler, doing his Sunday services in basically like a drive-in theater before the church was actually built. And then his congregation built over time. And they created this amazing, this worship space and an attendant, beautiful facilities that are just really amazing. I think a 13-story office tower and a performing space and gathering space and everything. And it's just really been a blessing that as the Diocese of Orange was looking for kind of a spiritual home, their cathedral had grown too small. They were able to actually acquire that property and and to work with a congregation to resettle them into one of the Catholic churches in that area. And now this is being retrofitted as a Catholic cathedral. And we haven't had a chance to see the inside of it yet. I've had a peek at some renderings, and I just am so excited for what's happening there, but also just the space that they have now to hold events like this. Where will the play actually be performed?
It will actually be in the Freed Theater, which is part of one of their centers there. It's a beautiful, beautiful little theater with a stage and lights, and it's really exciting to be performing there. And they're going to have appetizers before the show starting at 6:30 and wine available to purchase. So it's going to be a really great little swanky night.
I'm excited. So tell us, when we come to the play, well, first of all, let me say before we get into that, and I'll mention it a few times, but if you're living in California, or if you feel like just you love Mother Teresa so much that you want to come to California to see this, the place that you can get your tickets for this is motherteresaproject.eventbrite.com, and Bright is BRITE. So motherteresaproject.eventbrite.com is the place that you can learn more and get a hold of your tickets. But Christin, tell us what the play. It's a one woman play, but it's not only Mother Teresa that's in the project, right?
Right. So I have 5 characters plus Mother Teresa. So there's 6 characters that you will see in one night. It's sort of like, sometimes I feel like I'm running a race performing, and then at the end of it, it's just unbelievable. So I play everyone from a homeless man to a disabled woman to a woman in a nursing home, and even a prostitute. And the characters are very joyful, and they're very funny. But at the end, I really get to the heart of who they are. So I like to make people laugh, and I like to make people cry. That's basically what I'm saying.
You make me laugh every time I'm with you. I don't think you've made me cry yet, but maybe. I'm sure you will on May 31st. So I understand that for today's podcast that you actually brought along a special guest with you, and that's one of the characters that I'll meet when I come to the Mother Teresa Project. But I understand that you have Jerry, your homeless character, there with you today.
Yes, I do, and he is thrilled to tell you about his encounter with Mother Teresa. So I'm gonna, without further ado, I'm just gonna let him.
Toss it over to Jerry.
I met Mother Teresa once in the Bronx. Hey, I'm not kidding. I was in one of the soup kitchens run by sisters. I guess she was coming to inspect the place. Anyway, that woman could smile. She just beamed. There's one thing that she said to me that I still remember to this very day. She said, Jerry, Jesus is in the distressing disguise of the poor. I have to be honest with you. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I was hypnotized by the so nut. It was like one of those Twilight Zone moments, or like a buzz from some really good, hey, cheesecake. Anyway, later on, it hit me. Jesus in the distressing disguise of the poor? The poor? You mean to tell me I am God? I got God in me? You mean to tell me I got Jesus in me playing peekaboo? Hey, hear it and weep. That's right. I got God in me.
Whoa, Jerry, thanks for taking a moment to be with us. And Christin, that is amazing. That is amazing. It always is interesting to me because I'm, a writer, and I bring characters to life in my head and my books and stuff like that. But you have the duality with this particular project and your other one-woman performances to do the acting of the characters, but also to have written them. Is there one that you favor over the other, the acting versus the writing?
Well, I think I'm a I'm a performer at heart. I think I'm an actress at heart first and foremost. I think the writing serves the purpose of, if I get an idea, it needs to go somewhere. in terms of creating, these characters, because I really do. I'm telling you, when I was a kid, I loved growing up, and I loved watching sitcoms. I did, and I loved these characters that you would just see, these characters that would just make you laugh, and just their uniqueness. And just the joy of that. So I really, like I said, I think the passion is really first and foremost acting, and the writing kind of serves that purpose. I get an idea in my head and it's going to go somewhere. So
well, that's so cool. It's so cool, and I can't wait. So again, the performance will be for this particular round of Mother Teresa Project will be May 31st and June 1st at the Christ Cathedral, and you can get your tickets at motherteresaproject.eventbrite.com. If you don't have a pen, don't worry. Just come on over to lisahendey.com, and I'll have all of the links for Kristin's information in my show notes. Now, Kristin, if somebody's listening and they're like, aha, I want to bring this to my parish or my diocese, are you open to traveling around and doing it in different places?
Yes. I love traveling. I love bringing Mother Teresa everywhere, wherever she is welcome. So, yes. And as I said before, I've performed mostly in the Northeast, and the play is made in such a way that it's very easy for me to take it on a plane. It's very easy for me to take my set, my costume pieces on a plane. So, yes.
Mother Teresa doesn't have a very big wardrobe, so that makes it easy, huh?
Yeah.
So what's the best way if somebody wants to find out more about bringing the show? What's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Well, you can easily visit my website, which is www.p2, as in the number 2, P, theater, and that's theater with an R-E, so theatre.com, so p2ptheater.com, and there's an information, you can fill out a contact us and actually email directly through there.
So I'll make sure again that we have all these links in the show notes over at lisahendey.com, but that's P2P Theater, spelled the fancy way.com. And Kristin, one of the things that I was doing as I was just getting ready for our conversation today is I went over to your IMDb, which if you aren't a Hollywood person, that's basically like Kristin's actor, kind of like online, one of her resume places online. And something that's there is your highlight reel, which is like a video that shows you in several different characters. And I had so much fun. Like every single one of them, I was like, don't stop. I want to watch the rest of that and the rest of that. So it was really fun to see kind of like a little snippet of the body of your work. But it made me think about asking you, what does your kind of prayer life look like? Because one thing that we talked about when we were getting ready to record today was that along with all the acting that you're doing and the performances and the writing and everything, you're basically busily going on auditions, and every week is different. You don't have like, on Monday, I always do this. On Tuesday, it's different every week. So what does your prayer life look like in the midst of that?
It's very anchored. In the sense that I'm a daily mass gal. So out here, you kind of need it to survive. I got into the habit of that. Before I moved to LA. But when I moved to LA, I realized how much more important it was. And I try very, very hard because I'm actually not a morning person. But I try very, very hard, to make sure that I make an 8 o'clock or an 8:30 a.m. mass to kind of start off my day, because after that, anything will pull at you. You might get a phone call for this or a phone call for that. So I found it to be very important to have that as a discipline, and to have, the first moments of my day to be with Jesus. And then, further than that, because there are days, very, very long days at set where I might be getting there really early. Like maybe I have to get there for like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and I don't have the luxury of making a mass. So, I really got into the habit because I see the work that I do, all of the work, whether it's the plays or it's being on a TV set, I see that all for the glory of God and just being God's instrument. So when I drive into work, I normally will pray my Divine Mercy Chaplet for anyone that I'm going to meet that day on set. And then once I get to set, I actually will pray my rosary. I mean, as long as I don't have anything that's too complicated. Because sometimes if you've got something that's very heavy duty in terms of like, maybe I have a lot of lines to prepare and it would be too difficult for me to be, have my mind on a second thing. I'll just leave it as is. But if not, I'll pray my rosary on set for whoever I'm going to encounter that day. And I'm just open to the conversations that the Holy Spirit, opens up and the people that I meet that day.
I love that. One of the things that's been so surprising to me since I arrived here is just the number of people who actively live out their faith in the context of the Hollywood world. And it's really fun to kind of like approach this world because it's not something that I've never really had any exposure to it. And just to be at like junkets and interviewing people and to see kind of people, make the connection so often between the work that they do as a creative person in the entertainment industry, whether they're the producer or the writer or one of the actors, and their faith life, and kind of how they see their work through that prism. It's really exciting. And the other thing I think is that you and I have the unique opportunity when we go into those places just to be, to be Catholic, to not shy away from that, to be joyful about our faith, to answer questions that people have. Oftentimes it's like people will say, "You're Catholic? Like you're so, you're normal or whatever," like, or maybe you're not normal, but you're happy. And it's been so surprising to me over the last couple of years of just like the conversations that I've gotten into and how, the chance to share my faith in this place is really unique. It can be very challenging though. And I'm sure sometimes you've had to make, or, maybe it's happened that you've had to make a decision about taking a role or writing, something. I'm sure when you write, it's under your control, but, doing something that might cause you to come into compromise with your faith. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, in a different way, though. It's really interesting, and it's funny because I talked about the importance of human dignity for myself in that message, but I didn't really mention why. And I think I'm definitely going to share this. So it's so interesting because when you're going out for these auditions, you get a lot of times, like, they're really looking for, like, sometimes, like, stereotypes or, like, the craziest thing in the world and the worst when I was self-submitting myself. So prior to my agent was when they'd be like, okay, looking for, beautiful woman. It's like, beautiful woman. Okay, well, maybe I could be beautiful. Or looking for hot, sexy model types. And you're like, well, I don't know if I fit that. So you're sort of like rating yourself as you're submitting to these jobs, which is so interesting. So anyways, this was maybe about 3 years in, and it was around Christmas, and I don't remember exactly what the product was, it's probably good enough anyway. It's probably fair enough that I don't mention what product it was. But they were having a commercial, and it was for something like an iPad, or like, it wasn't an iPad, but it was for something like a tablet, like something to that effect. It was a piece of technology. And I'll never forget, I got this audition, and it said that they were looking for, the role was looking for an ugly girl. It said that they were looking for someone to play this ugly girl that nobody wants. And it was supposed to be funny. The premise of the commercial was that it's an office party, and I was supposed to play this girl that's this ugly girl, and these guys, I have this tablet or whatever, and I draw this mistletoe, or I load up a picture of a mistletoe and put it over my head, and I'm like, hey, guys, and then the guys are completely repulsed by me, the fact that I would do this, and it was supposed to be funny, but I was like, this isn't funny, and to tell you the truth, being a woman of faith, and even being, unfortunately, I had, years when I was growing up where I was bullied, and I just didn't feel that was okay. And I remember being at conflict, and I remember thinking to myself, am I going to go in for this or am I not? Because, I've made obvious choices about nudity. I've made obvious choices about language, about it being against my faith, but this was something really different. And I remember just not feeling right in my spirit because I was like, this is really demoralizing, who I am as a person and whoever's watching this. And then I think it was a year later, I don't know if you know the actress Yvette Nicole Brown. She's been on Community. She's
yes.
She's been on tons of different sitcoms, and she's hilarious. And she's a Christian. And I got to hear her speak, and she shared that she will not take a role. So she'll actually sit back. She'll actually sit back during pilot season if a role is offered to her that doesn't match the dignity of who she is. Because she said at the end of the day, somebody on that screen, somebody on the other side of that screen, somebody, in their homes, in their living room, is going to see themselves in this character. And she said, and it's important that they see themselves in a way that's lifting them up rather than taking them down. And I talked to her afterwards, and she agreed with me. She said, no, she said, it's very important. You have to protect your dignity. You have to protect the dignity of others.
I love that. And I love that. I'm pretty sure that your commitment to your lifestyle as a Pauline cooperator also kind of helps you when you get into those moments where you're kind of at a crossroads. It's like, what is this particular part of my spirituality helping me? And one thing about the Daughters of St. Paul, and we're so blessed because we get Sister Rose and Sister Nancy and all these amazing sisters out here who, you see them in the context of Hollywood, and they're totally living their vocation. I mean, they walk in obviously in their habit, and people are drawn to them. People know what to expect when they see Sister Rose or Sister Nancy. They know what to expect. They're well respected as amazing women with gifts and talents. And people just, embrace them. And I think probably kind of soaking in some of that spiritual lesson from them and your formation and your ongoing living of that kind of cooperator lifestyle probably helps you a little bit. Do you guys have regular meetings as cooperators or times that you get together?
Yeah, so once a month, every Saturday, we always have, it's like a 2-hour session where the first part of the session, so the first hour is normally a holy hour, and then the second hour is a teaching on the Pauline spirituality, and I'm so grateful for them. I can't even tell you. It's such a blessing to have a community, to have a community that understands the call of being in the media. It's so funny because John Paul II, he put out this call for the new evangelization, and I was really a child, a teen of John Paul II, and I really resonated with that call. But looking for the how-to, John Paul, when he beatified their founder, Blessed James Alberione, he called him the first apostle of the new evangelization. So, I mean, their spirituality really gives me a how-to. How do I live that out?
Yeah, and we're so blessed that they're here. Well, pray for me because I'm prayerfully discerning that commitment myself. So I'd ask for your prayers for that. So am I allowed to ask you a little bit about Unexpected Crowns?
Yes, you can.
Because when you were talking, I was thinking, when you were talking about that role, that you were considering auditioning for, I was just thinking about how, like, in the last year, so much has happened in the world, from the whole Me Too movement or whatever, and all the kind of the role of women and the place of women. And I wonder if a commercial like that would even get, past some sounding boards right now in today's world. But how did you come up with the idea for this project Unexpected Crowns, and what's it going to be like?
So the funny part is Unexpected Crowns was a dream of mine before I even knew I was moving to California. It didn't necessarily have that name, but I've always had it in my heart to do a show that encouraged a woman. And I put together a web series back in 2015 called Ladies Keeping It Real. And it started to kind of play with the concepts that I had for the play, the idea for the play. And then this wonderful actress, Kara, Kara Britton, she had contacted me, and she loves doing character work as well. And she said, Kristen, I'd really love to do a play with you. And I started talking to her. I was like, well, if we're going to invest this kind of time, I said, it has to be something that I feel passionate about. And I said, well, how about this? How about women's dignity? And she was like, yeah. So we started working together, and we worked together for 9 months, really, really working on character ideas and fleshing character ideas out. We have everything from a bridezilla to a first-time mom in a Lamaze class, to two old ladies in a red hat society, I'm trying to think of all of the characters that we have, but they're just really great characters and just women at different parts in their lives. And we were thinking of that concept of how women wear different hats and how these hats are really, really have value, like a crown. So that's where we came up with that concept.
I love that. Now, is that going to be something that's going to be coming out soon? What, can I see it soon?
I hope so. So we had a preview performance back in November that went very, very well. We recently did a little bit of tweaking, just a little bit of tweaking to two of our characters. And we're basically trying to figure out the next step of where we will be bringing it. But we're really hoping that it'll be very, very soon.
Awesome.
We're ready to go. We've been working really, really hard on it. Mm-hmm.
That sounds so fantastic. Well, I honestly could keep you on the phone for an hour. I'm not going to, because our podcast listeners have things to do and other podcasts to listen to. So sadly, but will you come on again at some point in the future and be on the show again?
I'd love to, please. Yes.
Awesome. And you have to come over. We had lunch in my backyard recently too, so we'll have to do that again sometime soon too. I want to remind everybody that our guest today has been Christin Jezak. And Christin, again, most importantly, the thing to remember right now is the Mother Teresa Project, which you can learn more about how to get tickets for this at motherteresaproject.eventbrite.com. That's at the end of May and early June. 2 nights at the Christ Cathedral. And definitely, if you live in LA or Orange County or San Diego or San Francisco or Las Vegas or Ohio or Philadelphia, and you want to come for that, come on May 31st, because that's when I'm going to be there. So it'll be really fun. Christin, are there any kind of closing thoughts or anything that you want to let our listeners know before we let you get back to work?
Sure. I think just, don't be afraid to follow your dreams. Don't be afraid, if God puts a call on your life, to take the step. One of the great things that I love and that I admire about Mother Teresa was her ability. Oftentimes she didn't know where she would have what she needed to do the work that she would do. She would just take that step. She had these acts of faith, and she would just go forward. And I really try to incorporate that as part of my life. And I really hope that you're blessed by that message.
I'm blessed by it. I'm sure everybody else will be too. Christin, I'm so happy to call you a friend, and I just feel so blessed to be getting to know you and this beautiful work that you're doing. And I just can't wait to see where the future takes you. It's going to be really fun to sit in the audience and watch you, and to walk alongside you too. Mm-hmm. So again, today our guest has been Christin Jezak. You can follow Christin on Instagram. She's at Christin Jezak, which is her last name. It's ChristinJezak. And again, to get all these links, just come on over to lisahendey.com, and we'll have all the ways that you can get in touch with Christin and follow her and join me in praying for her in this important work that she's doing. So that is it for this week's show. I'm so happy always to get your feedback. So definitely drop me an email to lisahendey@gmail.com, or just drop me an @reply on Instagram or Twitter, or wherever you see me. I'm pretty much at Lisa Hendey everywhere. And I'm loving the emails that you guys are sending, so keep them coming. They're really, really helpful. If you've enjoyed the show, you might want to consider going over to iTunes and leaving a little review, or even just a star rating is really helpful. And if there's something that you want to recommend for an upcoming podcast, I'd love to hear from you about that too. I will be, as you're listening to this, it's early May. My May is full of travel. I'm going to be in the Midwest and in Colorado and in Mississippi and just kind of all over the place. So send some prayers for me and definitely connect with me on social media to see where the view from my office is this week. So again, I'm so grateful to you for listening. Thanks for being my friend. And I'll catch you next time on Lisa, Hendey, and Friends. God bless everybody. Have a great week.
Breadbox Media programming is brought to you by...
We want to help others, especially in places of strife, such as the Holy Land, where Christianity is dwindling by the day. But how to help? Here's an easy way. Buying products through the Holy Land gift shop. Every product you purchase at myfranciscan.org/shop helps Christians support their families and stay in the Holy Land. Olive wood, embroidery, spices, and many more authentic products from the Holy Land are available right now at myfranciscan.org/shop. The Holy Land Gift Shop, bringing the Holy Land home.
I learned how many people we could help and how good you feel after you've helped others. I know Lent is about giving, so I want to give.
These kids are talking about CRS Rice Bowl, a Lenten program known by generations of Catholic families. Children love it because they experience different cultures and gain a lasting impression of the people they are helping. You can bring CRS Rice Bowl into your home and experience the joy of seeing your children or grandchildren find new meaning in Lent. Visit crsricebowl.org to get started.
Rice Bowl inspired me to pray more and to pray for those who are less fortunate.
Thank you for listening to Breadbox Media. Find more about us at breadboxmedia.com.